Welcome. I appreciate everybody coming out. Looking forward to what these gentlemen have to share with us. We're going to start the evening off with the pledge, and then we'll get into things. So if everybody could stand, and we will have the pledge to our flag. All right, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, you all can be seated. I want to take a moment, just because we owe this, and you folks deserve it. But if you've served in our military, I'd like you to kind of stand just briefly so we can acknowledge that. We certainly appreciate and are grateful to everyone that has served and those that are serving now. And we owe a tremendous amount of debt to you guys. I noticed earlier this week that it was the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown, and Ruby had shared with me a writing, I believe, that they had shared at their church earlier this week. So I want to read it, and pretty touching. So give me just a moment to read this. But it's the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown. It says some heartwarming facts about the guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The guard takes 21 steps during his walk across the tomb of the unknown soldier. It alludes to the 21-gun salute, which is the highest honor given to any military or foreign dignitary. He hesitates 21 seconds about face to begin his return walk for the same reason as the 21 salute. His gloves are moistened to prevent his loosening of the grips of the rifle. He carries the rifle on his shoulder away from the tomb. After his march across the path, he executes about face and moves the rifle outside to the outside shoulder. Guards are changing every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. For a person to apply for the guard duty at the tomb, they must be between 5'10" and 6'2", tall, and their waist can't exceed 30 inches. They must commit to 2 years of life to the guard of the tomb, live in the barracks under the tomb, and cannot drink any alcohol or off duty for the rest of their lives, and cannot disgrace the uniform of the tomb in any way. After the 2 years, the guard is given a wreath pin that is worn on their lapels, signifying that they have served as a guard to the tomb. There are only 400 presently worn. The guard must obey these rules for the rest of their lives or give up the wreath pin. Their shoes are specially made with very thick soles to keep the heat and the cold from their feet. There are metal heel plates that extend to the top of the shoes in order to make the loud click as they come to a halt. There are to be no wrinkles, folds, or lint on the uniform. Guards dress for duty in front of a full-length mirror. The first 6 months of the duty of guard, they cannot talk to anyone, watch TV. All off-duty time is spent studying the 175 notable people laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery. A guard must memorize who they are and where they are. Every guard spends 5 hours a day getting his uniform ready for guard duty. Pretty impressive. I don't know how many of you has ever been to see the Tomb of the Unknown, the changing of the guards, but very, very moving. And we've got to go see that a few times. But Ruby had given me this and asked me if I would take a look at it and share it. And I really felt like today being Veterans Day, it was appropriate to do so. Just amazing country that we have, the men and women that have fought to give us those freedoms, that we can have events like this today. And so thank you again for me and everyone here. I do want to take a moment just to open up. Hopefully no one minds this, but just open up in prayer and we'll get started. I believe whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, we need to pray for our nation. We need to pray for success and encourage these people. So if you would, bow your heads with me real quick, and we will have a prayer and get on into the service. Dear Heavenly Father, God, I thank you so much for your grace, your mercy, everything that you bestow upon us, Lord. God, we're just so thankful today for this Veterans Day, for all the men and women that sacrificed. Lord, we know that you gave the ultimate sacrifice that we might be free. But, Father, we just want to recognize these people today. And God, as we come together, Lord, I just pray for our country, our state, our city, Lord, that you would encourage those men and women serving in these capacities, Father, that they would do what is in the best interest of all. God, I just pray that you would be with them, uplift them, strengthen them every day, day in and day out, Lord. And just continue to bless our state, our country, Lord. Continue to bless Connorsville. And Father, we just pray that you would bless the speakers tonight, Lord. Bless our time of fellowship. And we ask all these things in Christ's precious name. Amen. All right. So tonight, you say, why are we here? We're here for some good food, right? No, that's part of it. But we're here because we want to take a moment to talk to everyone in this room, as well as everybody that's going to see this program on TV3, on YouTube, in the newspaper, whatever it might be. But we want people to know that the Democrats aren't done. We're still fighting. We're still fighting to gain ground, to gain offices back right here in Connorsville, in the state of Indiana. But we want them to know what's happening. How many people's been hindered by a road closed sign in here? We all have, right? Can't turn around without there being a road barricade. But those are good things. Our infrastructure's been falling apart. It's been failing in many places of the state for many, many years. And part of what these gentlemen are going to talk to us about is the American Rescue Plan and where that money's going and what it's been used for. And I'm thrilled to see that money being used right here in Fayette County and in Connorsville and in our state and so forth. And trust me, I wasn't looking to be chairman, but when chairman found me, I've learned a lot, both with all of you people helping me, but getting to talk with Drew and different ones at the state level. They've helped me a lot too, and just some of the things that most of us don't realize, and I just want to share a few things to you guys. But so far, $5.8 billion in relief has been given to Indiana. That's quite a amount of money there. More than $2 billion has been provided for K through 12 schooling, and that's helping every one of our kids, our grandkids, and making sure those schools have resources that they need. And if you get a chance, go to the Indiana Democrat website. There's actually an interactive map there that's really neat. You can go on, you can select the county and see how each county in the state has benefited from the rescue plan. So I'm just going to give you a few statistics here, and then I'm going to hand it off to our first speaker. But so far here in Fayette County, $4.46 million, and that's Fayette County. The city of Connorsville, $2.67 million. Fayette County School Corporations, $5.9 million has been awarded to them. So what you say, well, that's a lot of money. You're right. And the people that we elect to these positions are the people that are the stewards over making sure this money is used wisely and responsibly, and that it gets to the right place. So I'm thankful that we've got people in Washington making things happen so that we can see things happening right here in our hometown. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to our first speaker, Mr. Kent Yeager.
Okay, thanks. It's great to be with you this evening. It's just good to be out with people, and especially when those people are Democrats. Anyway, so it's really a good feeling for all of us, I think, to be able to get together with a group of Democrats. And well, first of all, I live in southern Harrison County. Ed just asked me a while ago where I live, and I said I live south of Cordon. Now, I know everybody, except maybe Barron, does not think there's anything south of Cordon. But there's 15 miles, and my farm runs right into the Ohio River, and you literally cannot see any houses from my house except the ones that are in Kentucky. So that's how far south I am anyway, so it's way down there. But I've been here a number of times in Fayette County, and I'm one of those rare people who has actually been in every county in this state, several times anyway. But I had not been in this building. I've been out here to the park, but I hadn't been in this building before, so that kind of threw me a little bit anyway. But a couple things I want to talk to you about, and most importantly, I'm interested in your thoughts and any questions that you have. But my actual role now with the state party, when Mike Smool became chair, he named 5 deputy directors. And I've known Mike for several years, and actually worked on the Buttigieg campaign for a year, and made several trips to Iowa. I kept a map of Iowa laying on my desk, so if somebody called me, I could immediately locate where they were at. Lots of emails and so forth. I had a great time. I was part of the policy team for Buttigieg anyway. I felt like it was one place that I could contribute really from a Democrat perspective, but also to help Democrats understand a little bit better what is really important in farm policy anyway. So it was a great experience for me, but anyway, Mike called and asked me if I would be the deputy director for rural engagement. And I thought to begin with, I really don't have time to do this. I'm president, besides farming, and having retired twice, and I'm a miserable failure at retirement. I can tell you that anyway. Last night, and most every night since it rained the last time, I don't know, which is about 10 days or so now, we've been shelling corn or combining beans till at least 10 o'clock at night. So I'm not getting a whole lot of sleep these days anyhow. So, but I thought, I really shouldn't do this because I'm also president of the Indiana Barn Foundation, trying to save some of our old wooden, mainly mortise and tenon barns, but round barns and others that, I think hold a lot of our heritage. And I thought, I'm going to have to think about this before I can tell them. And I talked to Mike probably for about a minute and a half, and I thought, this is something I really want to do. It is really important to me that we try to revitalize ourselves and bring Democrats around, because there's no reason we should not be more popular in rural areas, in my opinion. I know I ran for state representative last election because nobody else was going to run. There's a lot of story associated with that I'm not going to go into, but it was very interesting, and I knew I didn't have a chance. We're right now in a county that used to be Democrat 30 years ago. I also was elected to county council twice in '88 and '92, and it was like falling off a turnip truck to get elected in our county as a Democrat then, and now it's near impossible. I got 30% of the vote, basically. That's about where we're at. And that's about where we're at in a lot of counties, a lot of rural counties, especially in Indiana, is about 30% base right now anyway. So I know we can do a lot better, and just on the issues, if people just looked at where we are on issues, we would be winning or at least be competitive in the worst circumstances. And I contend that even if you look at what I think are the most difficult issues for us, because people don't understand what our Democrat position really is on guns and abortion, that we would still be competitive in rural counties. And so we've got to some way get past that. We've got to get people back to looking at issues again. But, you know, Republicans have now for so long beat us over the head with all kinds of issues and called us all kinds of names. And of course now, you know, we're worse than socialists. We're un-American. And, you know, now we're seeing a lot of with the bipartisan infrastructure deal, we're hearing a lot of Republicans call that, even though a number of Republicans voted for it, a lot of people saying it's socialist. And most of us are old enough to remember when Republicans were reasonable enough to know that we needed to invest in, well, a lot of things, but particularly infrastructure in this country. I mean, our roads and highways, our all kinds of transportation, even expensive ones like locks and dams to help transport, especially a lot of agricultural products. You know, that's a lot of what has helped to make our country competitive and better in a lot of circumstances. When we look at our biggest agricultural competitor now in Brazil, the big advantage we have over them is infrastructure. And Republicans used to understand the value of that, and anymore, they don't understand the value of anything except trying to keep taxes as low as possible. Let me tell you, we are, and these guys could tell you far better than me, historically, if you look back at where we're at from a tax rate situation, we're historically low. I mean, you can look back at it for 100 years and more, and we're low compared to what it's been a lot of times. But to hear a lot of Republicans talk about it, you would think, you know, they're just being squeezed as hard as they can possibly be squeezed anyway. So anyway, I do think that we can be competitive. I want to mention just a few issues to you, and one in particular that both from the American Rescue Plan and the money that's coming into Indiana from that, but also now from the infrastructure deal is, and something that's really critical to rural counties, is broadband and high-speed internet. And even, I make the point with people all the time, you know, even cell service. I doubt that cell service is any better here. I didn't really monitor as I came into the county, but we used to drive around the state and 15 years ago and talk about, well, you know, it won't be long. Cell service was generally improving, and it won't be long until we have great cell service everywhere. Well, I don't think it's gotten any better, and maybe even worse in the last 15 years. And it comes down to being a real issue of safety. My mother, for instance, who's 90 years old, still lives by herself out in the country, she has, as we do, still have a landline, but she has no cell service in her house. You can go out on the farm places and you can get cell service. But if mom's home phone doesn't work, she can't really reach anybody. We have Frontier, and I understand it's a losing proposition to try to maintain all of this hardware portion of landline phones. And I think it's just a matter of we've got to make cell service. We've got to get cell service everywhere. I think we can get that done along with broadband anyway. But, you know, this is another thing that now we've got enough extra money with at least $350 million extra. Not that that's going to do it, not that that's going to get it every place, but it's enough incentive, I think, to help move us along on having substantial cell service in a lot of rural areas, at least. So that hopefully is going to make a difference. From the ag and rural perspective, a couple other issues that I want to mention, and let me just say that, you know, it used to be when I was a kid, I was born in 1952. So I remember what rural areas looked like in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s, and it just tears my heart out to drive through a lot of rural areas and just see the general economic decline. And I think you have to have a great, or at least a good, entrepreneurial environment for rural areas to be successful. I just think it takes entrepreneurs in rural areas. The biggest deterrent to being an entrepreneur, and this has been the case for more than 30 years, is health insurance. And we never even hear people talking about health care, health insurance anymore, but it's a huge thing and it's a huge need. And, you know, obviously that's not one we're really talking about tonight, but I just say that because I'm convinced that if we had real health care available to everybody, we would have far more entrepreneurs and we'd have a far more vibrant rural economy all over this state and all over the country. But a couple things that we do have that I want to mention that I think, you know, as you look at Democrat issues related to agriculture and related to rural areas, consolidation is something that is important to every farmer. To the most right Republican, they are concerned about the level of concentration in agriculture. And it's kind of like the Walmarting of agriculture in a way. And it's not anything we can fight, and people have gone along, you know, had to go along with it. Farmers generally have had to get bigger to be able to make it. But we have had, and a lot of this has been supported by Democrat policy, and a lot of support in the American Rescue Plan was for opportunities for direct marketing and for local foods. And everybody knows that's gotten more popular, and we certainly need to encourage that. We've kind of, in the way I think about it, we've got kind of the general, you know, large farm, basically, economy going, which we've got to have to produce the food, but at the same time now, we've got a lot of small farms that are finding a way to be successful by doing direct marketing to people anyway, and I think that is really encouraging. One other point that Democrats are really pushing to try to take advantage of, and we get a little pushback from Republicans, is carbon. We can sequester carbon on farms, and there can be payments for that, and there are. And the bottom line I tell people though is, carbon is a great thing in the soil. It actually makes your soil more productive. We don't want it in the air. It's bad in the air. It's good in the soil. So we need to find more ways, and we know there are ways there that we can get more carbon in the soil. So that's another area that certainly Democrats have been working on, and we can be successful at. So, you know, just to take a look at a couple of items that I think are important to Democrat policy. I think we're making some progress. Certainly the Biden administration is making some progress on trade. You know, we really saw the last administration, and I hate to even say the name of the guy who was president, but we saw that administration come in and really upset the apple cart. Barron Hill, for years, we talked about on trying to improve trade. And Barron understands ag trade as well as anybody I know. And he knew that we needed to have fairer trade all along, but we weren't always concerned enough with that. And I lobbied for Farm Bureau, for years. And unfortunately, at that point, our policy was saying, what they told me to say was, hey, we just need to get trade. We don't need to be concerned about how fair it is. Well, then all of a sudden this other guy comes along, and then we're all concerned about it being fair for some reason, you know, which it needed to be all along. And most farm organizations said, well, yeah, we need to do that now, you know. So anyhow, it's been a real struggle, and we can't address trade issues on our own, which is essentially what we tried to do. We had all these huge payments to farmers to make up for some of the trade issues, which farmers needed because there was a lot of money lost in the way we addressed trade. But of course, you know, and then it always amazed me, again, Republicans don't want taxes, but tariffs are okay with them. Now, I think you all understand that tariffs are taxes. And they're taxes you paid, despite the fact that that guy was saying, well, China's going to have to pay this. We're all paying it. And people, consumers were paying it. You were paying it. It's, I don't know, it just is, it's been an amazing thing to watch over the last few years anyway. So I'll say just a couple more things and quit. And hopefully, again, you know, I'd be really happy to hear what thoughts you have on revitalizing democratic principles in rural areas. I feel like I'm kind of like a bee being a pollinator. I hope I can pick up some ideas here and in other places that I go and share those with other people as, you know, things we can do to help bring ourselves back anyway, because we've got to do it for the good of the country anyway. So if you have thoughts tonight, any other time, I'm always interested in what your thoughts are on how we can do that and how we can make it happen. And I know we can be competitive again. We've got to do it for the benefit of the country and for our counties. I mean, our county governments even are suffering because I don't know how decisions are made here, but now that we've got an all-Republican, even though county council, for instance, 3 of them used to be Democrats, why, they don't ask questions in meetings. And I told somebody the other day, I don't know if it's worse that they don't ask obvious questions that should be asked, or that I'm pretty sure they're having meetings before the meetings where they're probably asking the questions. I guess I hope, Ed, that that's better, that they're doing it in the dark, so to speak, so that none of us can see it, than just being really stupid about it and not even asking these questions to begin with. But our government is designed to function in a two-party system, and we need to play our part in making that two-party system stronger. So it's important for us to do that. The last thing I'll say is I also want to recognize it being Veterans Day, and thank you to all of you who are, to all of you who have somebody in your family. I got to tell you, over the last few months, I've wondered with our approach and the difficulty with getting people to wear masks and be vaccinated and do the things that will pull us out of this pandemic. With all the resistance to that, I just can't help but think, when I think of how selfless somebody has to be who's in the military, I don't know if we could react anymore in a way. I think, what if there was an attack? I just don't know. Now, whether people, I don't see the selflessness. You know, the last time I think we really saw that in a big way was 9/11. And, you know, people really rallied around the country. And it just amazes me how Republicans, while they, you know, talk about the importance of the country, they're so anti-government that they can't see past anything. I don't know how you hate government and love the country, I guess. It's something that I'm struggling with personally anyway. So I could talk all night. These guys have a lot more important things to say. So anyway, thanks. So, you want Ed? Okay, Ed Delaney.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Riding down 52, I saw some beautiful sunsets, some beautiful countryside. I saw some towns that were not doing terribly well, which is why I'm here. I'm very concerned about our rural areas. I grew up in a small town. It's in the Appalachian part of New York. People don't know that a small part of New York is in the Appalachian district. I go back there and I want to cry. And I think a lot of the people who go to their small towns in Indiana, they want to cry when they go back and see what's happened. So I think we've got to face this. Let me tell you, one of the things that provokes me to be here and talk about this issue is I met privately with 2 members of the Republican majority over the years. You would know their names. I will not single them out, but they were from rural districts. I asked them, one person to another, I said, what is your agenda for small town Indiana? These conversations occurred several years apart. I got the same answer from both leading Republicans. I have no agenda for small town Indiana. I said, why is that? They said, because they're dying and there's nothing to be done. So that's the challenge. The party that's in charge of the state does not believe that there's anything that can be done to help our small towns. And if you want evidence of that, look at the votes on the infrastructure bill. Not one Republican from this state in Washington voted for the infrastructure bill. Not our 2 senators and not one of our 7 Republican congressmen voted for this. So they don't want clean water. They don't want broadband, okay? They don't want better bridges and roads. And what they don't want is they don't want better rail service in Connersville, Indiana. Let's be specific. Mr. Pence, I call him Pence the Lesser, he voted to keep you having, was it 2 times a week the train comes through here? Okay, that's what he wants. What my party, your party, voted for was improved rail service from Cincinnati, going now through Oxford, Ohio, coming through here, Indianapolis, and stopping at the airport. You could go from here to the Cincinnati or the Indianapolis airport and on to Chicago if you wanted to. They're going to add service from Louisville. This is a tremendous opportunity to take people off the roads, give them some comfort, be great for the older people, great for the students. Think of the students who travel those routes. College students, I'm talking about. But Greg Pence doesn't want that. They don't want anything that the Democrats want. The problem is, what the Democrats want is what the people want. So what do we give people instead of clean air, clean water, better transportation? We give them more hate. They do have a monopoly on hate. I'm sorry. But we survived that. Barron will remember, I remember when Birchbot, for God's sakes, was running around dealing with the gun issue and the abortion issue. And he did damn well and was a great American hero in my view. Okay? So we can deal with these issues on the merits. But I think we can't have hate, but I think it's time for us to have anger. The first time a single Republican in this state brags about the new rail service or the new water service or the new cell tower or any of that, the first time they brag about it, you have to just say hypocrite. Hypocrite. You're against all of this, and then you want to claim credit for it. We have to be that direct. We have to be that simple with them. It's very, very hard for us to do that. Now, they've recognized some of these issues. Let's talk about 2. They recognize the need for cell towers, but they've dribbled out money scattered around the state. Another one, they've recognized that preschool is really important. It allows both people in a family to work. It gets the kid a better start in life. But they've dribbled out money. I think the last time it was 15 counties out of 92 had some money for preschool, okay? They fool around on the edges of important issues. They don't believe in 2 things that are critical. They don't believe in investments. We are sitting on so much money at the State House. I told the governor, I said, Governor, you've got the problem the Democrats always wanted. You're drowning under money. You have to invest. What do they want to invest in? Nothing. Okay? They don't sit here and say we've long dreamt of what? Lower tuition. How's that for a crazy idea? We've dreamt of lower tuition. How about that? We've dreamt of better roads and better service for our constituents. We've dreamt of preschool. They have no dreams. So they don't want to invest in anything. We literally have a problem with the money. I'm not kidding you. Since July 1, back up a little. In April, we had to do an estimate of what our revenue would be. And we did our budget based on that. We radically increased our estimate of revenue because of what's going on in the economy. We started July 1. Since then, we are up $500 million over our increased estimate. The money is flowing in, and they have no goals for it. They're going to try to cut taxes on the businesses. That's their goal. They've had that goal forever. That's what their idea is, okay? At the same time, some of them want to impose sales tax on services. So you'll pay a sales tax at your barber, your lawyer, your dentist, your doctor, whatever. They have no goals, and they don't believe in our institutions. That's what's disturbing. They don't believe in our institutions. All this stuff about the public schools and critical race theory, which isn't being taught, undercuts our people's faith in our schools. The schools are vital. Let's talk about another institution, our colleges and universities, okay? They are, in my view, other than our geographical position and our infrastructure, our colleges and universities are the greatest asset this state has, okay? And they have all these agencies and commissions that are supposed to increase the educational levels. In the last 5 years, our state colleges and universities have lost 10% of their students. Let me repeat that. In 5 years, we've dropped 10% in the number of students in our colleges and universities. Is that where we're trying to go? Is that our goal? Do they talk about that? Back to the institution question. One of the reasons people don't like government is it proves itself incompetent. Have you talked to the people who spent 7 months to get their unemployment benefit? The state of Indiana, remember, the state of Indiana was paid by the federal government to administer these unemployment programs and was paid 100 cents on the dollar for the extra benefits. It cost the state nothing except organization and commitment, and we didn't have it. 7 months to get benefits in many cases if you have to appeal, okay? That's just one example. All over the state, BMVs are reducing their hours because we can't apparently hire people and keep them staffed. Our charitable organizations aren't getting funded properly. It just goes on and on. They're not committed to government competence. We have to say that they are not doing the job and that we're angry. And they can run around with all their hate issues that they want to create, all the fake issues they want to create. We've got to be tough about it. So I'll come back to my theory is, because people don't really care about the legislature, I've been there 14 years, we don't get a lot of attention. People are focused too much on Congress. I think we should just take advantage of that and run against them as a party. Say, you sent 7 people to Congress who couldn't find $1 for broadband infrastructure, preschool, or anything else. 4 of those 7 don't know who the President of the United States is, okay? 4 of them won't admit that Joe Biden won an honest election. I'm angry about that. I'm not hateful about it. I'm not coming up with propaganda about it. I'll never forget what happened on January 6th. They never talk about that. But you saw the video, and I did too. They stormed the Congress. And your congressman's brother was hiding in the Capitol. Okay? And he doesn't want to talk about it. And they want to pretend it didn't happen. We're the ones who should be angry. You know, this isn't false anger. So I'm urging you, lay off the hate, but ride the horse called anger, and we'll get somewhere next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say how happy I am to be in Connersville and Fayette County. It's been a while since I've been back. The last time I was here, I had brown hair and didn't have a beard, by the way, back in those days as well. So I have had the opportunity to meet with several of you, and we've reminisced and talked about some walking that we did through Fayette County and other places around here. So it's really good to be back here once again. I also want to thank you for giving me the honor to serve you in the Congress of the United States for over 10 years. Very much appreciate it. We're here today because we think it's important for people in rural areas to understand that Democrats really do care about people in rural areas. For many, many years, when I was in Congress, We talked about infrastructure over and over and over again. Both Republicans and Democrats were on a bipartisan basis in favor of doing something for our crumbling roads and bridges and schools and all the infrastructure projects that needed to be done. And finally, under Joe Biden, and both Republicans and Democrats, not a whole lot of Republicans, but at least there were some, voted for something that we've been talking about for over the last 20 years. And in Indiana, unfortunately, we didn't get that bipartisan cooperation in doing the kind of things that needed to be done here in Indiana. And just to put things in perspective, 57% of the people around the country approve of what we've done in this infrastructure bill. And some of the things that are really significant to outline the idea that Democrats really do care about people in rural areas, and this is for the members of the press who are here, on broadband, which has already been talked about, $350 million is going to be dedicated to broadband in Indiana. $350 million. 16% of the people in Indiana, in rural areas in particular, do not have access to broadband. If you go down probably to your public library, you'll see a lot of people lined up on the computer, using the computer so that they can have access to the internet. And that's because they don't have it in their own homes. They don't have it hooked up. That's all going to change now because we passed this infrastructure bill, $350 billion. For roads and bridges, $7 billion. Now, take that in. $7 billion has been dedicated for roads and bridges in Indiana. Now, that is not only going to improve roads and bridges, but it's also going to create a whole bunch of jobs here in Indiana. There's no doubt about that. Water, $751 million will be delivered to help revitalize Indiana's water infrastructure system. Public transportation, $680 million to update and invest in modernized public transportation systems. Talking about buses, trains, and things like that. And in climate change, a total of $20 million so that Indiana can fight extreme weather when it hits the Hoosier State. That is a whole bunch of money. And it passed in bipartisan support, but mostly it was Democrats who did it. And we're here today to talk to rural areas like in Fayette County and Connersville, to let people know in this county the Democrats really do care about the things that you need. The evidence is right here. We've passed this infrastructure bill. It will create jobs. It will create great opportunities in terms of improving the quality of life here in Fayette County. And I think the message that we would all like to leave with you is that just because rural areas are voting Republican does not mean you should not give Democrats at least the attention to what we are willing to do for people in rural areas. And this infrastructure bill that has been passed is evidence of that commitment. How many of you have ever heard of Roger Bannister? If you have, raise your hand. You ever heard of Roger Bannister? I want to tell you the story about Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister was a long-distance runner back in the 1950s. And back in the 1950s, it was widely believed by both physicians and runners and people in general that a human being couldn't run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Everybody believed that it was humanly impossible to do this. And then one day, Roger Bannister went out and ran a mile in less than 4 minutes. And everybody said it was a miracle. But the miracle was what happened after Roger Bannister finally broke that barrier. The miracle was everybody started running the mile in less than 4 minutes because he had dehypnotized people from their mental limitations and made them believe that they could do it. Well, we're kind of here doing the same thing. We're here delivering the message of goodwill that Democrats want to bestow upon constituents in rural areas, and this infrastructure bill is a part of that. I know from past experience that if we are in places like we are today in Connersville and Fayette County, delivering our message of what Democrats believe in and what they want to do to help people in places like Connersville and Fayette County, that people will have a change of heart actually believe that a Democrat is okay to vote for. So that's why we're here today. We are extremely grateful for you showing up to lend us your support. We will probably open it up for questions. I know Ruby back there and the ladies have prepared a Democratic meal that'll knock your socks off. And so after this is all said and done, we want to partake in what they have done for this. Another example of Democrats really do care about people. So we thank you, ladies, for preparing all that for that good food, and we appreciate you being here very much. So I think right now, in the interest of you all, if you have questions or comments, now's your opportunity. Anybody have a question? Anybody have a comment that they'd like to make? Yes, sir.
Could you just repeat those figures? I think it was 7 billion, 350 million.
350 million for broadband. $7 billion for road repair in Indiana alone. $7 billion. $751 million will be delivered to revitalize Indiana's water infrastructure system. $680 million to update and invest in public transportation. And $20 million so that Indiana can help fight extreme weather. I think there is a whole lot of money for public education in this. I don't have the figure myself on that, but I do know that teachers have got a pay raise because of Build Better, and was it Build Better? The rescue, the plan, yeah. The teachers have got money, especially during the pandemic, because of the crisis that we had. So teachers have been a beneficiary of a lot of the bills that the Democratic Party has passed. So in addition to what you were asking about, the education has also been a beneficiary as well. Good question. Anybody else? Let's see.